$36 billion surplus. But then we did away with pay-go. 10 years ago, we had a big budget surplus with projected surpluses far into the future. And if you remember, that was when our economy created nearly 23 million new jobs, the biggest budget surplus in history, and millionaires were doing pretty well to boot. Keep in mind, the budget was balanced. In fact, we were running a surplus in 2000. So these policies of cutting taxes for the wealthiest Americans, of stripping away regulations that protect consumers, running up a record surplus to a record deficit. Those policies finally culminated in the worst financial crisis we've had since the Great Depression.
Value. Things like surplus supply sheds and outdated FAA towers. We need to get rid of these properties too.
In 2000, at the end of the Clinton administration, we not only had a balanced budget, but we actually had a surplus.
In the year 2000, the government had a budget surplus. In Washington, tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires, the costs of 2 wars, and the recession turned a record surplus into a yawning deficit. And that left us with a big pile of IOUs. If we don't act, that burden will ultimately by next year. We're a nation firing on all cylinders.
Just talking
there seems to be a surplus of those here in Australia. And you know what happened? The private sector thrived, jobs were created, the middle class grew, its income grew, millions rose out of poverty. We ran a surplus.
So if we didn't need it, if the country was in a surplus like it was back in 2000, you know, I'd understand us saying, well, let's try to, you know, let millionaires keep every last.
Bangladesh, in the poorest region, they've had their first ever surplus of rice. It's also positive that the Eurozone will pursue structural reforms to strengthen competitiveness in deficit countries and to promote demand and growth in surplus countries to reduce imbalances within the Euro area. I just believe that anybody making over $250,000 a year should go back to the income tax rates we were paying under Bill Clinton. Back when our economy created nearly 23 million new jobs, the biggest budget surplus in history, and plenty of millionaires to boot.